We're at beautiful Lendenwood Gardens in Grove, Oklahoma with Len Miller, who built these gardens from the ground up. Thanks for being with me today, Len.
Yeah, congratulations. Your new show, and welcome from Wisconsin to Oklahoma. And we have one of the most beautiful gardens in northeastern Oklahoma here at Lendenwood.
It certainly is beautiful. Can you tell me a little bit about the history of Lendenwood?
Well, I built it, started in '95 and gave it to the community in '97. And we've had a lot of volunteers who have built portions of the garden. I've sort of been in charge of the plants and taking care of those. And we have 7 major collections of plants here. Most of them are the plants from Japan, a very tranquil feeling that we have here. And I think you'll enjoy visiting here because we're here early in the spring and we have lots of beautiful flowers that'll come into bloom for long.
I've noticed this beautiful tree behind us. Can you tell us what that is?
That's a Yoshino cherry. Really surprised me at the size that it's gotten. We have kind of a shade garden here, and yet that has found the sun and really in its glory. It's beautiful.
It sure is a beautiful floral display. Well, as I've walked the grounds, I've noticed you use a lot of Oriental architecture and plants. That seems to be the inspiration for your gardens here.
Yes, I visited a lot of botanical gardens, and when I went into the Japanese part or the Oriental part of the gardens, I really enjoyed that feeling. And so we have a stroh garden, a hill and pond garden, a lot of water features here, and certainly the Japanese garden pond and the pavilion. That's sort of a destination here at the garden.
Well, let's go take a look at the pavilion. Okay, Len, can you tell me about some of the features and elements that go into a Japanese garden?
Well, the presence of water is certainly important. It's the giver of life. And so here we are in the Japanese garden area of Lendenwood, and we have this beautiful pond. But there are other ways to produce that feeling of water. We know about the Zen gardens, which are gravel gardens. They really represent the water, and very flat like water is. And then stones are often placed in there to represent islands or mountains. And so that's the part of that. And then the structures are important parts, such as your little tea house. That's a very nice feature. And then we have the pagodas, which really have Indian, from India. All of this comes down from the religious aspect of Buddhism, and it traveled from China to India and to Japan.
Okay, excellent. I noticed a lot of the plant collections you have and the plants that you use are also Oriental, so why don't we take a look at some of those?
Okay. Well, Kim, one of the plants that's over here by the pavilion is the Deodora silver mist. It's really a specimen plant. Some say the best conifer we have, and we have 250 varieties of conifers. But I kind of like this. This plant is a lot of fun. You can see its beautiful yellow foliage.
It is lovely.
It is from Japan. It has real thread-like leaves. And it is a chamaecyparis, and it has the longest name of all the plants here. It's a Chamaecyparis filifera lemon thread. And all those are descriptive that really describes this quite unusual, beautiful conifer.
You have a nice collection of Japanese maples here, and I really enjoy viewing Japanese maples in the springtime when the new foliage is coming on, because they tend to have a lot of color to them that they lose later in the year.
Yeah, Kim, this is kind of a rare plant. This is called bonfire, and you can imagine the colors there, yellow and red, a bonfire occurring. So that's one of our 75. We have 75 varieties, so that's just one of the many that you'll see if you come to Lendenwood. We have a number of different styles of Japanese maples. This one, Murasaki Kiyohime, is more of a mushroom style. It sort of spreads out flat. Then we have the cascading style, which is, this is Orangeola. It's a very heat tolerant Japanese maple in the cascading style. And then over here is the more upright style. And so you can find just about any type and shape of Japanese maples you want.
Let's take a look at another collection of plants.
Okay.
Now you also have a nice collection here of tree peonies. How many different peonies do you collect here?
Well, we have about 25 varieties. They're woody plants. They have anemone type flowers, not as double as the herbaceous perennial that most people think of when they think of peonies. However, they are grafted on herbaceous peonies, and we can see over here on this plant where they're coming up from the root. And so you want to prune that back so that it doesn't sap the growth of the other plant.
So we just go ahead and remove all of these young shoots that are coming out from
Correct.
the rootstock.
Okay.
And these buds are getting nice and swollen. When do they usually flower?
About the mid-April, so in a couple of more weeks, the beautiful flowers. It's one of the most beautiful flowers in the garden.
Now the final collection of plants that we're going to look at are your rhododendrons, and this is probably the pride and joy of Lendenwood here.
It is quite unusual for Oklahoma to have a big rhododendron garden. We have over 720 varieties of rhododendrons and azaleas here. It's the largest collection of elepidote rhododendrons, which are the large leaves, in the Southwest. So obviously we're very proud of this. We have beautiful flowers that'll come up in a couple of weeks, bloom for at least a month, with these beautiful clusters we call trusses, which are usually from 10 to 15 flowers in a group.
Okay, and just seeing the vast number of rhododendrons here, it must be quite a show. I'm sure that people aren't going to want to miss that. Now tell me how you got started collecting rhododendrons.
Well, I actually started with azaleas. Back in this early 70s, azaleas were just becoming available, and I quickly propagated and collected 270 varieties, and became interested in the American Rhododendron Society, and discovered rhododendrons, the elepidote, the large leaf type, and began to try to find plants that would survive our climate. And we've become pretty successful. Now, it wasn't easy. A lot of plants died. But now, if you come here in the botanical sense, you can see the name of the flower, the name of the plant, and you can order that. And then we'll talk about how to be successful.
And what are some ways to successfully grow rhododendrons in Oklahoma? It can be a challenging environment for them.
Yes, first I think you have to have a selection of plant that will take our heat. And Hyperethum, which comes from Taiwan, is a tropical plant. Those plants seem to take our heat. And the one from Japan, Yukuzamanum, a species as well that seem to take our hot climates. And those hybrids of those even have more vigor. So on the north side of your house or on the east side, you plant that type, they'll usually grow quite nicely. You have to have acid soil with air in the roots, and so about 80% pine bark, mulch, and the finer the better. You mix that in this, modify the soil, and you'll have success. You have to keep them really moist, because they're from a moist, wet climate.
Okay, and one of the things when we're looking at the north side, we're looking for shade from the afternoon sun. That's particularly important. And also wind protection, correct?
Yes, these are sensitive root plants. If it gets too hot in the soil where the sun hits them in the afternoon, where our temperatures can rise over 100 degrees, these plants are not going to be happy. So on the north side of your house, the sun will be not there, and so it'll stay a lot cooler. East side will work as well, particularly if you have some trees over on the east side of your house to give them some shade in the morning.
Okay. You have a number of those heat-tolerant rhododendrons here on the John Thornton walk.
Yes, these are plants that I purchased from John Thornton. He had hybridized them. They were little seedlings about 12, 14 years ago, and I brought them here to Oklahoma. He was from Louisiana, so it was very hot down there.
Mm-hmm.
He used a species from Taiwan called Hyperethum and made many crosses. And so we have a number of them in this area that will take the Oklahoma heat. And I'll tell you a little bit. I named this after OSU, called Cowboys.
Okay.
Beautiful lance-like foliage,
Yeah.
has white flowers with a red blotch, and quite nice plant. You can see after about 14 years it's about 5 feet tall and 7 feet across.
Has a nice rounded shape to it as well.
Yeah. Now the next rhododendron here is called City Park, and this is a cross as well with a very hardy rhododendron, and it's called City Park because it was sold in the City Park of New Orleans. So this plant can really take the heat of the South, and it has pink in bud, open white flowers, and it's more of a dwarf plant. Makes a great foundation plant, doesn't get too big for your garden. Now our next plant has got a beautiful shiny dark foliage. It's just about to open up. You can see the buds swelling. That's Michelle Smith, named after a lady in Little Rock, Arkansas. And that's a white flower with a purple blotch and beautiful foliage plant. Also gets about 4 feet tall after 10 years. You can see this plant is just about ready to bloom. Probably next week it's going to be in full bloom. Then the next plant is a very hardy rhododendron. There's a eastern rhododendron called Janet Blair, and it was crossed, John crossed this with Hyperethum. Produced a very flat pink flower, very large flowers. And I named it after my youngest granddaughter, who was born on my birthday, and we're 60 years apart. I named it Breezy. Her name is Breezanna Marie, and so the name of this plant is Breezy. Beautiful plant, and it's now a commercial plant sold in the nurseries in Oregon. So very successful plant.